We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.
There we go. I'm in. Sorry about that. We had a bit of a software snafu here at the beginning of the show. Welcome to the Friday portion of Free Association Radio. This is Robert Phoenix. It is the Friday Farcast. And I am flying solo today. I will have two exceptional guests next Friday. I'm going to have James Gilliam from the E-SETI Ranch, along with Courtney Brown from the Farside Institute, as we creep up on the end of May, beginning of June, and all of the heavy weather associated with this time. And trust me, there's some heavy weather out there. If you haven't been paying attention, the area just north of me was hit with a massive tornado storm. Small tornadoes, but lots of them, doing all kinds of insane damage in the northern part of the state here that I dwell in, the great state of Texas. It's bigger in Texas. So yeah, heavy weather abounds. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more heavy weather by the end of the month, both metaphorically and figuratively, of course. There's a hell of a lot going on out there. I could just, on one hand, count at least 5 scandals that are all percolating and brewing and seething and roiling beneath the surface, waiting to explode like a geyser of denial. Can you feel it? There's tension in the air. Tension isn't always a bad thing. It can be a good thing. If you're an artist, tension can be a very creative energy. There was a period of my life where I was in my early 20s, I decided I wanted to be an artist. And so I committed myself to being an artist. And I wasn't really that good, to be honest with you, but I had a lot of feeling. And I wrote a lot of poetry, did some painting. Was my thing. And there was something that would take place during the experience of being engaged in the artistic and the creative cycle. And some of you will actually understand this when you, this is a particular version of it, there's a feeling of angst at times and a feeling like you just have to get something out. And then you do it. And depending upon the degree with which you do it, there is a release of some kind of endorphin. I'm going to guess it's melatonin. because I would become incredibly peaceful after I would experience the catharsis of the creative act. And I would have a couple of days of peace, and then it would start up again. And it would get more intense and more intense and more intense, and I would be engaged in the creative act, and woo, I'd do something. This is the pendulum of art. Now, not all art is like this, but that was the type of art that I was engaged in at that time. So we have that. I think we have that now. I think it's in the air now. And there's a lot of emotions that are flying around, man. A lot of emotions. And they get played out on a microcosmic level. I mean, we have the emotions of the macrocosm. There's the frustration, there's the resentment, there's the anger, all these things that we live with in our lives, and we see what's happening out there. We see it, we project it, it's all happening out there. And there are times when it is happening out there, but it's also really important to understand that these are manifestations of inner states. And some of them are ours, and some of them are just a smidgen of ours, and some of them may have nothing to do with us. But there's a collective agreement, enough of a collective agreement that these things are taking place. More than they're not. Am I right? Because if there wasn't, then they wouldn't be. Now, how do we get to a place where we collectively disagree for these things and agree on the fact that we don't want them to happen anymore? That's the hard part. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, because I think we're trying to do that in our own way. You know, we live in these pods where we're so seemingly disempowered. You know, there's one person here and one person here and one person here. If you're in the chat room, you might find 18 or 19 people there today, depending on how many people are turned on by the subject matter of the show today. And you might be able to commiserate and talk and bond and build something. And trust me, that is an essential thing. Because what we're doing right now is we're trying to feed one another. We're trying to keep each other standing upright. Because our institutions have abandoned us for the most part. For many people, the church has abandoned them for whatever reason, okay? Maybe it's because if you're a Catholic and you realize that your church is sitting on, you know, billions of dollars and yet allows poverty to take place in the world, that would be enough for you to lose your faith, even though Pope Francis, quote unquote, has come out recently and said that he wants to be more engaged in the economy of the world. Well, that's a very interesting stance for him to take. We'll have to keep our eyes on that and see what he means by that. But if you're a Catholic, that might knock you for a loop. You know, whatever institution it is, if you're a progressive, a Democratic progressive, and you're seeing what's going on in Washington right now, if you're not doing a reality check, then I'm sorry, you've got another thing coming. You have really got to do some serious soul searching because of what's taking place in Washington, and having any kind of relationship on an emotional or spiritual level to that, other than circumspection, requires some serious self-examination or re-examination. Every institution has it. They're failing us. And so what we have to do is we have to rally with each other, because this is all we have, really. Each other and the collective spirit that runs through each and every one of us, so that we can somehow weather the storm that's about to hit. Okay? And it's going to hit. It could be the coastal global event, or the global coastal event, the whole coastal event. It could be that. I could be sitting on top of my roof doing this broadcast 2 weeks from now. I don't know. I could be driving my car up the road desperately trying to find bee cave so I can dodge some radical solar flare which is headed in our direction. I don't know. Or I could be sitting here 2 weeks from now talking about something else. It could be that storm. It could be the economic storm. It could be the political storm that is swirling like a hurricane in Washington, D.C. The rivers of the level of denial. The level of denial is rising. The Nile Valley is rising. That's what's happening. But we have to help each other. And there, trust me, you go in that chat room and you'll find it. There are people there that have open hearts and open minds. And it's not just a chat room. There are people all over this country. But the challenge is that it's in pockets. Somebody lives in Florida. Somebody lives in Pennsylvania. Somebody lives in Texas. Somebody lives in California. Somebody lives in Hawaii. Somebody lives in England. Somebody lives in New Zealand. Somebody lives in Australia. It is hard to coalesce in a physical area, the type of life that we want to express and share and live. But this is the world we're in right now. And I believe that what's happening with these pockets of connection and compassion and love is that we're actually being prepared for some other kind of connectivity, some other kind of reality where we are collectively joined in our consciousness and spirit, and we don't have to be in the same location. We don't have to be looking across from one another, staring one another in the eyes, and having, a lovely darshan moment. It can happen through what we call time and space, because time and space does not exist. It doesn't exist. This is what Einstein was talking about. It exists through agreement. And what we're doing now is we're creating a new social gravitational field, and we got to grab it any way we can, and this is the way it's happening. So the reason I decided to come up with today's show, today's topic, which I haven't really touched upon yet, is I was on Facebook last night. And, there are people on Facebook, they're like circles, right? Circles. You get your inner circle, the outer inner circle, the outer inner circle, orbits. So there's somebody who's a Facebook friend who, for me, let's say I'm the sun, I would say they're probably Jupiter or maybe Mars. They're not Mercury. They're not Venus. Certainly not their, let's say they're Mars. 4 rings out, somebody to connect with, somebody to have a philosophical affiliation with. We see the world in a similar way, which is why we're friends. I don't always have those people. They might be Saturn. They might be Neptune, depending upon, how far out they are. So it's somebody that I have some simpatico with, right? We see the world through a similar lens. Just don't do a lot of sharing on one another's threads. That's all. I caught her thread last night, and she said, "Has anyone seen John Trudell's page? He's posting globalist mind programming crap." Now, I thought this was a pretty bold assertion, because John has been on the show. I've met John. I spent some time with John. He's a good guy. He's been through a lot. Not everybody agrees with John. There are people in his own community that don't agree with him. There are people in the AIM movement that don't feel like John stood up when he needed to. Okay, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm not part of that community. I do know that he lost a wife and he lost 2 children in very tragic circumstances. I do know he did time in prison, and he struggled with a lot of things in his life, and he's doing the best he can. And he's got an amazing perspective to see where we have been and to see where we can go. So I went to his page, and I looked at it, and I was like, well, that's not it. Maybe this is it. maybe this was the post. And I think it was the post. He was talking about Angelina Jolie. And he was talking about what happened to her and how she removed her breasts because she believes that there is a chance for her to get breast cancer because it's something that her mother had. And of course, on the internet, you're reading a lot about this, was it the BRCA gene, and how this is kind of a very cynical way to keep the lid on that patent. And there's for this drug that treats breast cancer. I mean, there's a lot of crazy conspiratorial internecine stuff around this. Okay, that is coming out. You can go to Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, Alex Jones. They're publishing pieces on this. Mike Adams had one of his videos taken down from YouTube because YouTube believed that there was a commercial intent for something that they didn't agree with, and that wasn't the case at all. So there's a lot happening with this Angelina Jolie piece, which I will talk about if I have any time left in the show, because I think there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. It's more than just having her breasts removed because of the patent on a particular gene. But this is what the woman was referring to, because John said, much respect to Angelina Jolie. Look, I don't agree with what she did. I'm not even sure if that was her, right? I mean, has anybody seen Angelina Jolie without breasts? And if you go into the deep, dark, dank recesses of the alternative news community, you will see that there are people that believe that Angelina Jolie is a clone and that there's multiple Angelina Jolies, which, by the way, I don't have a problem with. And if that's the case, then if one of them lost their breasts, what's the big deal? There's probably about 4 or 5 more, with one of them probably right now hanging out underneath the Denver airport in an underground pool, laughing her ass off. So, so there's multiple layers of reality here, okay? But let's just say, for instance, that it was her, that she did actually remove her breasts, and that John Trudell actually did say, respect to Angelina Jolie, a very conciliatory, respectful, and poignant, but not very wordy kind of post on the matter. So I had to ask myself, what's going on with that? Here's a guy that believes in hemp. He believes in THC, the healing power of hemp, the healing power of THC. Why would he do this? I had a question. Why would he do it? Is he just mindlessly being programmed to spew globalist tripe so that women around the world, decide they want to have breast removal because they may actually have the mammary cancer gene inside them? So I shot off an email to my dear friend Linda, who is working hand in hand with John Trudell right now on the hemp thing. It's very close to him. Spent a lot of time with him, and so I asked her. I said, I just saw this printed, and I said, what do you think of this? And does John update his own Facebook page? Because that was something I was concerned. It was something that crossed my mind. Does John actually write this stuff? Maybe somebody actually does it for him. I didn't know. Doesn't hurt to ask. Why assume? That's where we get into trouble sometimes. So she sends me back an email very quickly, a message, within about 20 minutes after I sent this. And she said that John Trudell lived with Angelina Jolie's mother while she had cancer. Boom. Now, let's go back to that original post. That person said, in consecutive posts, I didn't post anything, but I was reading it, and she said, oh, Edward Bernays must be jeering from the grave. So that comment essentially was saying that this was Bernays-type programming, and as a result, now John Trudell was under the spell of the programmers, and that all reality is programmed. And I'm like, wow, this is really
this is interesting. This is a trip. And I posted on her page, Todd Friedel lived with Angelina Jolie's mother. Watched her die. And I think it just ended there. I don't think that post went any, I haven't been back to it. But I think the reason I'm bringing this up is because in the last 5 to 6 years, I'm going on record since 2008, 2009, for a lot of people, me way before, we've been doing our best to decode what is being done to us. We've been doing our best to understand the protocols, the paradigms, the holograms, the themes, the memes, the symbols, the frequencies, and how they impact us and impact our thoughts, our emotions, our speech, our predilections, our predications, our pretenses, our perceptions. We're desperately trying to untie the knots so that we have really good cord to then hang ourselves with. No, I'm just kidding about that. But there's some truth to that, because what we're attempting to do is grasp the enormity of this reality and why things happen and who's behind it and what the hell we can do about it. And I commend everybody that's attempting to do that. Everybody, no matter where you are, I commend you for that. The problem is, or the challenge is when we think we have answers, when we think we understand what's taking place without taking other things into account. Okay? This is I think a big moment on the event horizon for a lot of people in the truth community and the alternative news community, because I feel like we're being set up. I feel like we're being set up and indoctrinated. Well, indoctrinated, number one, set up, number two. I feel like we're being indoctrinated into a system where we sacrifice our compassion, because over and over and over again, we're being shown these events, whether it's Aurora or Sandy Hook or Boston, where things make absolutely no sense. There's all kinds of telltale clues. There's actors, there's doubles, there's false amputees. There's Tony Hawk as some guy, showing up as some guy in Sandy Hook, talking about his daughter, Emily, who may or may not be alive, who may be a sister. I mean, there's so many things that are taking place, and we're seeing so many inconsistencies and incongruities with all these things that we sit back and we go, yes, here they go again. They're pulling another one over on us. Those bastards. We're not going to take it anymore. The next time you do it, we're really going to get the truth on it. And your goose will be cooked. We're being set up. And I'm not saying that these things aren't happening, because clearly they are. They are happening. But I think we have to be really, really cautious around all of this, myself included. I put myself front and center on it. Because what happens is we have a moment like what occurred on Facebook. Reverend Bernays has just been jeering from the grave. Look at what John Trudell is doing. He's a little puppet on the strings at the Puppet Masters, and now he's dancing to the tune. And look at me. I'm so clear. I have the truth. No, she didn't have the truth. She had a piece of it. She didn't realize that the man had a connection with Angelina Jolie's mother. Now, this is a guy who's been traumatized. many times over. We have to be careful sometimes because we're being turned into callous cynics. And I have to deal with this a lot in my own life. It's easy. It's easy to be glib. It's easy to have off-the-cuff, cynical, snide answers. Oh, here they go again. Trying to fool us people, us little folk. We know what they're up to. Wow, we really don't. I mean, we do at times. Sometimes we can see, sometimes we get glimmers of the big picture and the clarity. But everybody that I've ever talked to, everybody that I've ever had in this show, everybody's got holes in their game. It's like if you play Major League Baseball, you could be the best hitter in baseball. There's still going to be a hole in your swing. And some pitcher out there, and some pitching coach out there, and some guy with a videotape machine is going to find it, and they're going to hit that hole in your swing every time until you fix it and figure it out. And these are the best hitters in baseball. These are the guys that are able to get up and hit the ball 30% of the time. They're up 100 times, 30 times, they'll actually get ahead. That's not your rate average. But that's the best in the game. Everybody I've had on this show has holes in their swing. And that's okay. So it makes us human. But we have to be careful because I think what's happening is, and I was thinking about this today, well, actually, I started with last night, is that we are being indoctrinated into a system where we don't care, where we lose touch with the act of caring because we're being conditioned to see it over and over again. Why should I care about this event? Perhaps nobody died. Well, look, this person shows up in Sandy Hook, and look, they're over here in Boston, and look, they're over here in Colorado. And you know what? They probably are. But what does that do to us? How does that alter our perception of reality? What does it do to our hearts? Hardens them. And I'm not saying that we don't need to have some of that, because the reverse of that would be to just gush emotionally at all of these events and just be jerked around like a tuna with a hook in our mouth every time, the line and the bait comes in the water, and we take it again and again and again. That's the reverse. Because now we're just being emotionally played. Oh my God, isn't this terrible? Yes, please take the guns. Oh my God, this is so terrible. I might have cancer. I might have testicular cancer. Please take my testicles out before I get cancer. And that's the other side of the coin. That's the extreme other angle. But I also feel like we're moving to the other angle, which is like, that's bullshit. Nobody died. Nobody got hurt. That's an actor. That's Kevin Costner. Because that's not necessarily the best. That's not necessarily the best tack to follow either. It's a really, really fine line. It's the razor's edge to be able to look at these things and disassemble them without becoming completely cold and callous and thinking you've got the knowledge every single time. Because ultimately, I think that's what they want. They want that. They want a populace that thinks they're informed in the dark and secret machinations of their rituals. And as a result, we lose our compassion because we have to leave it. We have to leave it at the door in order to see it for what it really is. Then the challenging part is to bring the two together so you can look at it and say, guess what? This is what's going on. And I'm going to continue to view this not through the eyes of a cynic, but through the eyes of somebody who actually cares and cares deeply about how this is impacting people, me, my life, and anybody else that might have been harmed as a result of it. Can those two positions coexist? We'll explore that when we come back from our musical interlude. This is a new piece of music, and this is a track called City, and it's by Harm Reduction. Harm Reduction is the brainchild of a listener, Pete Seven. He reached out to me, and he threw me some tracks, and he thought this one would be a good one to play. It's a little on the emo alt side of things. So let's break this down. It's 3 minutes and 53 seconds. City, Pete Seven, a.k.a. Harm Reduction. When I come back, we'll talk about how this is manifesting and what it's doing to us and what we can do about it. Here we go.
You're so pretty and sharp as broken glass. This too will come to pass. One blood type, one earth. Don't get bitter when it isn't your fault. So this too shall fall. It's just a curse. You're my sister. You're my favorite kind of place. You are the only one who knows my face. Can't take you with me, so I find another one. Then I'll go to kingdom come, and then I'll be done. You're so pretty. You're my favorite kind of thing. 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 Yeah, you're my favorite kind of thing. You are the only one who knows my story. I hope you miss me when I find another one. Then I'll go to kingdom come, and then I'll be done. And then I'll be done. And then I'll be done. And then I'll be
That's a pretty good song. I like that. That's City by Harm Reduction, a.k.a. Pete Seven. And he's got another track or two that maybe we'll play as time goes on and explore a little more of his musical expertise. Okay, it is now 12:35 here in hot-ass Central Texas. It is hot, 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 hot. It's going to be 97 degrees today, probably about 70% humidity. in for it in a big way, really big way. So if you're joining the show late in the first half hour, basically what I did is I covered what happened with Angelina Jolie just a little bit and some of the fallout around that. I was just cruising the chat room, and Wildflower was quick to point out that Angie's mother died of ovarian cancer and not breast cancer. It's a pretty big distinction. I think if she wanted to really make a statement, she'd have her breast and her ovaries removed. You see, now I'm getting cynical. But anyway, the whole gist or the narrative of the first 30 minutes was about seeing these events unfold and then losing our ability to feel as a result. There are two reasons why this is taking place. The first reason has to do with something called the Stockholm Syndrome. And I'm going to read the textbook definition of the Stockholm Syndrome. And where this is going is something you may not necessarily think about when it comes to the Stockholm Syndrome. Now, some of you understand this as a really basic premise. And the basic premise is that there have been incidents where people who've been captured and there's a bonding that takes place. So this is the history of the Stockholm Syndrome, and then we'll tie something else into it, and I'll show you how the two are interconnected. Okay, so this is from Wikipedia. Stockholm Syndrome, or capture bonding, is a psychological phenomenon in which hostages express empathy and sympathy and have positive feelings toward their captors, sometimes to the point of defending them. These feelings are generally considered irrational in light of the danger or risk endured by the victims, who essentially mistake lack of abuse from their captors for an act of kindness. The FBI's hostage barricade database system shows that roughly 27% of victims show evidence of Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome can be seen as a form of traumatic bonding, which does not necessarily require a hostage scenario, but which describes strong emotional ties that develop between two persons, where one person intermittently harasses, beats, threatens, abuses, or intimidates the other. One commonly used hypothesis to explain the effect of Stockholm Syndrome is based on Freudian theory. It suggests that the bonding is the individual's response to trauma and becoming a victim. Identifying with the aggressor is one way that the ego defends itself. When a victim believes that the same values as the aggressor, they no longer become a threat. Battered person syndrome is an example of activated capture bonding psychological mechanism, as are military basic training and fraternity bonding by hazing. Stockholm Syndrome is something erroneously referred to as Helsinki Syndrome. That's something else. Let me read that last sentence. Battered person syndrome is an example of activating the capture bonding psychological mechanism, as are military basic training and fraternity bonding by hazing. Think about that. Now, so we have the Stockholm Syndrome, where we begin to identify with our captors. We don't necessarily have to identify with them in a compassionate sense and bond with them like they are our friends, right? We don't necessarily, but we begin to identify with them. Now, I'm going to bring in another piece. It's called the Cremation of Care. And the Cremation of Care is an occult ritual which takes place every year right around this time at the Bohemian Grove. This is what Wikipedia says about it. It says the Cremation of Care is an annual theatrical production written, produced, and performed by and for members of the Bohemian Club and staged at the Bohemian Grove near Monte Rio, California, at a small artificial lake amid a private old-growth grove of redwood trees. The dramatic performance is presented on the first night of the annual encampment as an allegorical banishing of worldly cares for the club members and to present symbolically the salvation of the trees by the club. But the selective nature of the Bohemians and the political power of some of its members has attracted notice from conspiracy theorists, such as Alex Jones, who characterized the Cremation of Care as an abuse of power. The ceremony involves the poling across a lake of a small boat containing an effigy of care called Dull Care. Dark, hooded figures receive from the ferryman the effigy, which is placed on an altar, and at the end of the ceremony set on fire. This cremation symbolizes that members are banishing the dull cares of conscience. At the time the script was developed, the primary meaning of the word care, siaru, anxiety, anguish, was synonymous with worry, having more negative connotations than in modern times, when it tends to be associated more positively with compassion. The ceremony takes place in front of the Owl Shrine, a 40-foot hollow owl statue made of concrete over steel supports. The moss and lichen-covered statue simulates a natural rock formation, yet holds electrical and audio equipment within it. During the ceremony, a recording is used as the voice of the owl. For many years, the voice was club guest Walter Cronkite. The music and pyrotechnics accompany the ritual for dramatic effect. Now, there are people who believe that what happens during the cremation of care is the actual murder of a human being, and that everybody is witness to that in that moment. I can't vouch for it, but it has been talked about a lot in the alt news and conspiracy circles. And not just any person, but a small person, if you get my drift. And so everyone there is engaged in a form of sacrifice. Because who are we supposed to care for? It's the small people, right? So what happens there in the cremation of care is that they no longer care. They have assassinated their conscience. They've murdered their conscience upon the altar of desecration. And so what's happening through these events over and over again, the Sandy Hooks, Boston Marathons, the Auroras, is that our care is being cremated over and over and over again. We become cynical. We become cold. We become detached. And in some ways, we have to, because it is a traumatic response to what we're watching. We become detached. It becomes objectified, and we talk about it in very objective terms. And we use symbols in order to understand what's happening. And we use symbols in order to predict what might happen so that we can protect ourselves from the next trauma that's rushing at us like a freight train in the middle of the night. And that's what we do. And by participating in this, by trying to understand and disassemble what's taking place, we are actually being indoctrinated into their world. Because obviously they don't care. And what's happening is we're losing touch with our ability to care, our ability to compassion, because we're disassociating from the potential emotion and trauma of what we're really watching, whether it's real or not, whether people actually die or they're actors. We have to do some algorithm inside of our head in order to look at it, figure it out, and make it okay for us on some level. Because if we don't, we're going to do one of two things. We're just going to roll over and die, or we're going to be drooling and childlike. Or the third option is to just go with the narrative, the commonly held narrative. Oh, this is terrible. Yes, take our guns away, take our boobs away, and it'll all be okay. We're just going to give it all over to you because obviously you know what's best, and we can't figure this out. So we're just going to default to our most immediate emotional response. And a lot of people don't want to do that, and I don't blame them. I don't want to do it either. So we do what we do. We try to figure this stuff out, but we also have to be very, very careful because what's happening now, and we're bringing the Stockholm Syndrome back in, is we're beginning to identify with our captors. We're beginning to identify with them even though we don't know it. We think we are apart from them. We think we are better than them. We think we are separate from them. Because we're able to put a few pieces together and figure out that this is what they're doing. Yeah, on some level, it makes it a little easier for us because if we have some idea, some inkling as to what's taking place, we cannot be played as much psychologically. It's a better position to have than simply going along with the narrative. Because if you simply go along with the narrative, then there's just no hope for you. At least that's my thought. There may be some hope, but I haven't figured it out yet. But it's better than going along with the narrative. But is it really the most appropriate or empowering thing that we can do? And if it's not, then what do? How do we re-engage with this information so that we are not losing touch with our compassion, with our care, and essentially identifying with our captors in that way? I think that's the big question. And I think we've got to figure this part of it out. Because if we don't figure this part of it out, then we will become disassociative, and we will become cynical, and we will become truly the lone wolves that they want us to be, that they are shaping and framing at the fringes of society, the mad people, the people who don't care. Because I'm going to tell you, something's going to happen, and people are being set up for it. And there's going to be an event, and some real things are going to go down. Very real, okay? And it won't be actors. It won't be, fake blood, special effects kits. Something real is going to go down. And people who have been banging this drum, and it's not a bad drum to bang, because clearly there are incongruities and there are actors and the false flags are blowing in the wind. We cannot deny that. It's happening, okay? But we're coming to this point where these two points of view, these two opinions, these two ideologies are about to smash head into each other. And because part of us, and I'm part of the camp that takes this stuff apart and wants to untangle it, part of us has been conditioned to say it's all bullshit. And we're going to be given something soon where it's going to look like it's all bullshit, and it's not. And the worst thing that could happen, is that people who are working diligently to expose the truth or expose the lies and embrace the truth get played. And now they're really being seen as completely cold, completely unfeeling, and psychopathic. We've got to nip that in the bud. We've got to nip it in the bud because it's important. I mean, we can't lose touch with our humanity while we're in this zone. We can't. Because if we do, we're just like them. We're just like them. And we don't just emulate our captors. We don't just relate to our captors. We become our captors. And we become the captors of our own experience. We live in trippy times. Let me tell you, there is some shit happening. And it's not just this stuff, I mean, we are going through things on individual levels as well that is incredibly profound. and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't think I'm alone. Like for instance, moving off the subject matter just slightly. Last night, my son was playing a baseball game, and they're in the playoffs. And it has been a really interesting experience for me to parent him during this phase of his life. Because we started playing baseball last year, and he wasn't very good, and he got much better. By the end of the season, he's one of the better players on the team. And when we were in California, he played with such confidence. He fielded balls, he hit balls. I mean, the kid was, I'm watching this kid, and he's a natural. I'm thinking, holy moly, I got a baseball player in my hands. I bring him to Texas, and it's not the same. He's struggled. He's playing with older kids. I've talked about this before. I'm not going to bore you, but we actually made some headway. And I got him to hit the ball. He's hitting the ball well. His confidence is up. His teammates are digging him. I'm like, wow, we broke through. And then last night, it all just went to hell in a handbasket. He struck out twice, crying. He's crying. And it's not just, a few tears. I mean, it is meltdown, crying, tantrum stuff. And he's not swinging the bat on the called third strike. And there's this whole issue of taking accountability for who you are and not allowing some authority to determine whether you're in the game or out. And the irony was not lost on me. Because he was angry at that ump. He was angry at that authority figure. Well, guess what? He had a moment. He had an opportunity to do something. Whether he was going to fail or succeed, it would have been his moment. So I asked myself, well, is that me? Am I him? How do I feel about the umps in our society? Do I just want to sit there on the sidelines and be in the dugout and rail at them? Or do I want to take that bat and take my hacks, better or worse, whatever that is? So it all came back to me, obviously. Is that a narcissistic moment? I don't think so. Because I'm actually looking at myself in a not so, flattering light. The narcissistic moment would have been, I can't let kid hit a home run. I hit home runs. Little bastard, stop crying. It's not. It was more like, well, how does this reflect my own life? I think we're going through this on an individual level. I think things hit people now because we're becoming more conscious. And we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We're going to screw up, but we're becoming conscious, and we're doing our best to bring all this stuff home to the best of our ability. And if you're struggling out there and you don't think you're doing enough, or you're not making enough of a contribution or doing the right thing, that's for you to decide. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not easy. There's so many things happening. It's not easy. Whether it's your health, or your checkbook, or your kids, or the dominant paradigm, or your boobies, whatever it is. These are very challenging times to live in, but we all chose to be here. We all chose to be here, so we may as well get up to the plate and take our hacks. Because if we don't, guess what? That grim authority figure dressed in black with a mask on its face will take you out of the game. Strike three, go sit down. Choice is yours. But do your best to not lose your compassion and humanity while you're doing it. Because I think we're being set up for something that could be very, very harmful for the awakening population. All right, I think that's it. I think we ran our course for today's show, and I hope you found something meaningful. within the frame set of the last 56 minutes. I will be back on Monday with the Monday Mashup, Wednesday, Navigating the Astrological Matrix, and next Friday, circle this on your calendar, big show, Courtney Brown, Farsight Institute, as we run up against the big square Pluto-Uranus at the end of the month. Courtney Brown will be there, first hour. Second hour, James Gillian from ESETI. I'll be talking to him on Tuesday and recording our interview. These are two heavyweights. You don't want to miss this show. You might get some very pertinent information. I have a feeling that what we're going to be talking about on Friday is going to be very on point for what's happening on that day. I just have a feeling. So don't miss the show. All right. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible. I think that's it. I think that is the exercise. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you've been listening to the Friday Farcast. You know what? Somebody only got 3 minutes left. Somebody just called in with 3 minutes left. Let's just take this call. Hello?
Hi, Robert. It's Linda in BC in Canada.
Oh, hey, what's happening, Linda? We got 3 minutes.
I know. I just wanted to catch you and tell you and everyone in the chat room I got my bike back.
Hey!
I found my bike.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome after 2 months?
Where did you find said bike?
It was on the next island over, sitting in the bike rack.
See, I knew it wasn't on the island.
Yeah.
I said that.
You did. You said that.
I was right.
Yeah.
Hey,
but you got
Linda. Congratulations. Is it in okay shape?
It is perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine, and I'm just unbelievably happy.
All right. What a great story to share with us as we say goodbye.
Okay.
Today. Okay.
All the best.
Thanks, Linda. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. The bicycle is back. Philip K. Dick, take us out of here. Everybody have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.